Yo, what it is, you know what it is. It's your man, King Musa. Welcome to the Cheat Sheet, where we decode success from creators, professors, and business owners. I'm your host, King Musa, and we'll be diving into strategies and insights to help you elevate your game and set you on a path to success. Today, we'll be joined by a distinguished leader in the higher education who's been making waves at Stephen F. Austin State University. Our guest is Dr. Micheal Tkacik, the professor and director of the School of Honors. Let's get to know Dr. Tkacik and hear about his journey and experience in leading one of the most prestige programs at SFA. Welcome, Dr. Tkacik.
It's good to be here, man. So thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Welcome, welcome. So before we get started, my question for you is, what was your favorite major or subject in school?
Political science.
Really?
That's my academic department.
Okay.
Honors is one thing I do, but political science is my academic area.
Really? So how would you describe like political science?
Well, of course, it's how we govern ourselves,
Right.
but my area in particular was international security.
Okay.
So, what's up with China?
Mhm.
What's up with non-state actors like Al Qaeda? What makes the world go round?
Yes, sir. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in. Could you please introduce yourself and share your current role at Stephen F. Austin State University?
Sure. My name is Micheal Tkacik. I'm a professor of government, and I'm also the director of the School of Honors. Probably about 80% of my day is spent doing honors stuff, but what I really love doing is the teaching stuff.
Yes, sir. So what got you to honors? Like what brought you
Right.
in?
So the previous director of the School of Honors was a guy named Alan Richmond.
Mhm.
I still have coffee with him every Friday morning.
Beautiful.
He's a terrific guy. When I started here, I think pretty quickly he noticed me and got me teaching an honor section of American government. And I've always been good in the classroom. And his philosophy was that you got to be good in the classroom to deal with honor
Yes,
students.
sir.
And so when he retired, I was one of the people he suggested to the provost, who at that time was Rick Barry.
Right.
Rick hired me.
Okay. Yes, sir. Can you share your career journey and any key moments that led you to your current role at SFA?
So I did very well in college. I went to a little school called University of Maryland, Baltimore County.
Okay.
Not the Terps, but UMBC. You must be crazy. Our
Right.
mascot was a Chesapeake Bay Retriever,
Okay.
which also happened to be the type of dog I had growing up.
Nice.
Anyway, I didn't do well in high school.
Mm.
I really struggled in high school. I was doing a lot of things I shouldn't be doing,
Right.
getting into trouble. And I think my parents probably thought I was going to fail out of college. But I just blossomed because
Right.
people stopped telling me what to do. It was up to me. If I wanted to go to class, I go. If I didn't want to go, I didn't go. I had to
Yeah.
ask to go to the bathroom. I could do whatever I wanted.
Welcome to college.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And for a lot of people, that they go sideways with that.
Mhm.
But for me, I enjoyed the subject matter and I enjoyed being treated as an adult, even though I wasn't at that point. I was 18. Um, and so I just blossomed. I did really well there.
Right.
Then I didn't know what to do after the end of school.
What did you major?
So I majored in political science.
Political science. Okay.
So I decided, well, maybe I should go to law school.
Right.
And I got into a good law school. I went to Duke. I knew from day one I didn't like it.
Right.
But I'm not a quitter, I'm kind of that attitude. And so I stuck it out. And then I practiced 4 years big law at a firm in California, in Los Angeles.
Yes, sir.
And I was as unhappy as any human being can be. And, we would go out in the evenings, maybe go to a pub and have a beer or something.
Mhm.
When I would work out in the gym, I would read foreign affairs because that's what I enjoyed reading. When I was out at the bar, I would be talking about foreign policy.
Right.
And at one point I realized there's like a dozen people standing around me, listening to me. And I thought, I'm teaching.
Yeah.
I don't even know what I'm doing, and I'm teaching
Yeah.
here. That's what I'm doing in this little pub, drinking beer and teaching foreign policy.
What a way to find out.
Right. So, but I was so profoundly unhappy, so I quit.
Okay.
And my father, to this day, twitches when I bring that up. He came from a generation where you don't just quit a job at a big law firm.
Yeah.
I quit, went back, got my PhD, and then I was looking for a job, and a guy here, Rick Abel, had also gone to Maryland and called one of the faculty members at Maryland.
Right.
Said, we're looking for somebody. This guy, Jim Glass, was walking down the hallway. He goes, "Aren't you looking for a job?" And I was afraid he wanted me to do something for him. I was like,
Yeah.
"Maybe. What do you mean?" And he said, "Aren't you you're looking for a job? You're on the market right now." And I said,
Mhm.
"Yeah." He said, "Why don't you give this guy a call?" Called Rick, came down and interviewed in March,
Mhm.
got the offer. Um, in August, I walked with my dissertation,
Yeah.
a PhD. I got married and bought a house all in a week, in 1 week. And then here we are, 25 years later.
That is a move. Okay, so you brought up your father. Where are you from? I should say that,
I'm
you
from
know.
a little place north of Baltimore called Westminster, Maryland, a little
Okay.
little country town, just like Knack.
Yes, sir. And then with your parents, were they teachers? Were they, into law, everything else like that?
So that's a really good question. My mom did not finish college
Mhm.
because I came along. My dad did finish college,
Okay.
and from the time I was 3 years old, 4 years old, I remember sitting at the dinner table, and we had, it was a little tiny dinner table. There was no money in that family,
Right, right.
and he would tell stories about college. And I knew from the time I was 5 years old that I was going to college
Yes,
because
sir.
that sounded to me like the funnest place that's ever existed.
Yeah.
And I was talking to my students about this yesterday. First generation students lack that experience.
Mhm.
And so they lack a certain social capital when they come to college. And that's
Right.
why a lot of them end up not staying after the first year. They just get frustrated and they go home. And nobody's at home saying, college is great. You got to
Right,
do
right.
this, right? But for me, it was really easy. It was always expected that I would go to college. And the only thing that put a sort of a hitch in that was my poor performance in high school.
Mhm.
But that was, once I got past that, I knew I was going to college, and it was as much fun as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And then people say it's the greatest fun you'll have in all your life, and think that puts too much pressure on kids,
Yes.
right? But it is. You look back on it and you go, man, I had 15 hours of class a week, and I hung out with all these beautiful people,
Yeah.
and I partied and I went to football games. I learned interesting things,
Mhm.
and so after the law, I was like, I gotta go. I gotta get back there. I
Okay.
gotta go to that place that I love so much.
Yes, sir. That's beautiful.
Right.
Outside of your academic work, what are some of your personal interests and hobbies?
I have always been a gamer.
Okay.
And so when I was a kid, there were no computers. There was like a Commodore 64 or something. There were
Yeah.
no computer games. There was a video arcade, right?
Right.
But not those first person shooters. I would play these games with all these little tiny counters and these, rule books that are 40 pages of single space print. Games like the Third Reich and Luftwaffe and Tactics 2 and
Don't even know what he's saying.
right. So I would play these games. I could never find anybody to play them with me
Yeah.
because they're so complicated. And once computers came around, they did all the work for you. So you
Mhm.
could play the computer, you could play people out in the internet
Right.
somewhere. So I still to this day love playing computer games.
Okay.
There's an old game. It's called Civ 5.
Okay.
It's a turn-based game, and I'll play that. I probably play it every weekend. I like to cook out. I like to drink a cold beer. I love dogs. Love to
Yeah.
be around dogs.
Do you have a dog still?
She just died.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. My son is just finished his freshman year, so he's a sophomore now. And when he came home from school, she got cancer,
Mhm.
and he had picked her out when he was 7 years old. And so when he came home, I'm talking to the dog saying, "Just hang on, you just
Yeah.
got to see Milo." And she lived for 10 days after
Okay.
he came home, so he was there when we had to put her down.
Yes, sir.
She's a great dog. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Well, we're gonna go ahead and change the topic up because
yeah. Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. It's on me. It's on me. What is your primary goal for the School of Honors? How do you envision its growth under your leadership?
Well, we have grown, and
Mhm.
one of the main reasons we've grown is my assistant, senior programming coordinator, is a woman named Jennifer Crenshaw,
Yes, sir.
and Jen just knows how to run an office, a program, whatever it might be.
Yes, sir.
And she went to SFA, and then she went out and worked a while somewhere else, and then came back. She's worked here for a long time. She is really the person, there's the person that drives the boat and smiles at people and has the ascot on. That's me, right? I'm just smiling at people. She's down in the engine
In the
room
trenches.
shoveling
Yeah.
coal and making things work. So she's a big part of it. Now, what is my vision for the school? It's cool to be smart.
Yes.
And a lot of people that are 18, 19 don't know that yet, don't
Mhm.
realize that yet. So I want people who are intellectually curious to have a home,
Right.
to have a place where they're respected for being smart. Maybe they don't play on the football team, but that's all right. What
Yeah.
they do is they're the people that are going to run the world eventually.
Yes, sir.
And so I want to give them a place with like-minded people to exchange ideas, with professors who are really enthusiastic and encourage that sort of intellectual
Mhm.
growth. And sometimes just a place, where sometimes smart kids are a little different from everybody else, and
Yes.
a place for them to just be smart kids, and
I
it's
like
okay.
it.
Yeah.
I like it. Yes, sir. Can you share your career journey and any key moments that led to your current role at SFA? I feel like we went over this
Yeah,
question.
well, I mean, kind of that, just realizing that what I want to do is study and talk about things I like. Look, I'm
Mhm.
inherently a slacker.
Okay.
I don't want to work hard. If I'm not interested in something, I won't work hard at it. So I thought, what am I most interested in? Well, I'm interested in foreign policy and
Mhm.
national security. And how can I do that? Well, I can teach college. So look, there's two jobs better than mine. Being a rock star is better than mine,
Okay.
and being an NFL quarterback. Other than those two things, I have the third best job in the whole
Right.
world. So I get paid to talk and think about what I love.
Yes.
That's not work,
Yes, sir.
right? That's just having a good time. And I just happen to figure out a way to get paid doing it.
Okay.
Not much, but
Hey, you
still.
get to enjoy the break and you get to be with people who actually want to learn
Yeah,
these things.
absolutely.
Yes, sir. What has been one of the most challenging aspects of leading the School of Honors, and how have you navigated that challenge?
There are always challenges. Funding, of course, is a constant challenge.
Yeah.
We're trying to increase student faculty ratios at SFA, because that helps us make money.
Right.
Um, but I need small classes to do what I want to do with my students. So, and the administration, the provost, who's my boss, recognizes that,
Yes.
but it's still difficult to get deans and chairs to give honors classes when that's going to hurt their student to faculty ratios.
Right.
Does it make sense?
Mhm.
That's probably the biggest challenge that I'm facing right now. Another thing that I want to do, and that I'll be working on this semester, is find ways to increase retention. So
Okay.
even among honor students, we don't retain as well as we should.
Okay.
All of SFA doesn't retain as well
Right.
as it
Right.
should. So that's something that's another challenge that I'm working on.
Okay. Well, I guess the question that I have for the point of the small classes,
Mhm.
right? I do enjoy when I am in a small class because you get that chance to actually like ask questions
Right.
and feel a little bit more personal with your professor. When you're looking at honor students and things like that, is this a whole range of every major, or is
Yes.
there specific,
There's a whole range. Any major can be in honors.
Okay.
You need a 3.25.
Hmm.
The minimum time to get through the program is 4 semesters, but it's really designed for 8 semesters.
Right.
So that's another challenge. You get kids coming in with 30, 40, 50 hours of credit.
Hmm.
I got to squeeze that timeline really tight. And they end up not doing many classes because most of our classes are core.
Right.
And instead, they do what's called an honors contract, which is an independent project in a normal class
Hmm.
that if you complete it successfully, you get honors credit for it. Professors aren't compensated for supervising those
Yeah.
contracts. So I've got to there's real, sort of a line you've got to walk where
Yeah.
ask things of professors, but don't ask too much. And so that's another challenge.
Hmm.
So a 3.25 to get in, or a
Hmm.
1290 or a 27 on your SAT or ACT.
Yes, sir.
You got to maintain a 3.25 and earn 6 honors credit hours per year.
Okay.
But that's the minimum. You can't earn more than 6 in a semester because we don't want to overburden the faculty.
Right.
So again, what happens is you transfer into SFA, you've got 60 hours
Mhm.
already. I've got 4 semesters to get you 24 hours. That's 6, 6, 6, 6.
Yes.
And they're typically all honors contracts. That's a lot of extra work. So I try to have very frank conversations with students
Right.
about, look, what matters? Your degree, your grades, and your emotional health.
Right.
Everything at college should swim the same way. If honors swims that way, then fine, do it.
Yeah.
But if 8 extra projects in 4 semesters is too much for you, there's no shame in saying, I'm not going to do honors. I'm going
Yeah.
to take care of my degree, my grades, and my emotional health. And that's why we're all here.
Yes, sir.
So sometimes I have to talk people out of my own program. And, I think other administrators kind of shake their head at me, but my primary concern is students.
Yes.
That's what I care about. And that's
Yes,
what
sir.
I want them all to be successful. Sometimes that's part of honors, sometimes it's not. And
Right.
that's just reality.
So what's the ending result of being in the School of Honors? What does it bring a student who's gone through the whole process to earn those 24 hours?
So there's a professorial answer and then there's a practical answer.
Right.
The professorial answer is you build relationships with professors who you've worked very close with. You've been engaged with other really bright, intellectually curious student. These just
Right.
get a better education.
Okay.
There's no question in my mind about that. However, for the student, from the student's point of view, you walk with honors cords.
Mhm.
You walk with an honors medallion. You get a second diploma that I'm not allowed to call a diploma, but
Right.
looks like a duck, swims like a duck, quacks like a duck. It's a diploma.
Yes, sir.
Um, you are announced as a university scholar when
Okay.
you walk, and your diploma says university scholar, and all of your honors classes are listed as honors on your transcript. So when you go looking for a job, you've got honors, honors,
Right,
honors, honors,
right.
and you could talk about that.
Okay, I like that. Um, what are what are some new initiatives and opportunities within the School of Honors that students could be excited about?
Well, I don't know about new initiatives. I'm not of the view that new is always better.
Right.
But what we do is we have scholarship money, not for everyone, but we have competitive scholarships. We do study abroad, which I think is essential to a real education.
Mm,
This past year, Professors Joyce Johnston and Dana Cooper took a group of students to France for a month.
yes.
Um, what I want to do, I've got a little bit of money from a donor. What I really want to do is I want to give two $4,000 scholarships to low income students,
Yes, sir.
students that are otherwise at risk, that there's no way in their life they would ever go overseas. I want to take a kid from a rural area
Right.
who's living below the poverty line, if I can make that a rule, and a kid from the city
Yes.
who's in the same situation, and I want to send them overseas. I want them to go somewhere.
That is exciting.
Yeah, it's
That
pretty
is
cool.
exciting. Yes, sir. From your perspective, what are some of the most important qualities and skills that students should develop in to succeed in today's academic and professional environment?
That's a great question. I mean, clearly, you've got to be hardworking and disciplined.
Mhm.
That's just the reality. There are 8 billion people out there competing, right?
Yes,
It's not just West Europe and Canada anymore. It's the
yeah.
whole world, and a lot of those people are hungry, figuratively and literally. So you got to work hard. But I think beyond that, you got to be intellectually curious. You got to be somebody who says why,
Right.
right, and wonders why,
Mhm.
and wants to figure out why. I think if you have that quality inside you, and if you are willing to engage both the professor, the material, and the people around you, I think you'll be successful.
Yes, sir. Okay, so I want to add something to this question. Do you feel like college is a spot where the student is learning from you, or to the point where you're almost learning from the students?
Oh, both,
Okay.
both, without a doubt. One of the things, when you get my age, I just turned 60,
Yes, sir.
and they say you get wisdom, and you maybe, but you lose that nimbleness that your mind has.
Hmm.
And so my students will take perspectives on things that I didn't even consider.
Right.
And so I learn from my students in that way. Certainly, I mean, I hope they learn a little something from me.
Absolutely.
You learn from the material, and you learn from each other.
Hmm.
And that's inside the classroom and outside the classroom.
Yes, sir. So the reason I brought up that question is I'm a mass communication major and things, and the way social media, mass communication, the whole thing in general, we're faster now.
Yes.
Like everything, you
Yes.
should be able to post on everything all at once and work your media instantly, right? There's a lack of understanding when it comes to the professors and stuff like that, to where I'm like, there's no way that I can, stay in this bubble or stay, oh, I'm just in radio. No, I have to be able to produce an article, a podcast, TV, all these different things, right? And so being able to push or being able to get them to see, hey, like I'm really after it, because you do have especially from the School of Honors, you have those students who they're thinking about like quantum, and they're thinking so much further
Right.
than where the education's at and things
Right.
like that. How would a professor be able to feed a student who's looking into that?
So there's a lot of ways you can adapt pedagogy, adapt the way you approach the class.
Mhm.
So during COVID, we had to do a lot of things on Zoom and things like that.
Yes, sir.
But I think, AI is a good example. You People are already using it in the workplace. I've
Right.
got a former student who does development work. He's in Indonesia, and he uses AI to produce basic outlines for his staff to look on and to know how to do things.
Yeah.
Um, so I think as a professor, you've got to be willing to make use of those new technologies, new pedagogies, or new ways to teach.
Yes, sir.
Um, However, you've got to be careful because there's some things that don't change, right?
Right.
Cheating is still cheating.
Mhm.
Um, I try to engage my students about how they want to learn. So in
Right.
my foreign policy class, every day you're gonna read a scholarly article, an academic article, and then I pull a name out of a hat, and if it's your name, Musa, why don't you tell us about the Huntington piece?
Right.
And then you're on the spot for a few minutes, and it's kind of nerve wracking. But what that does, and I teach kids how to brief the article that they're reading.
Yeah.
What it does is everybody prepares because everybody's afraid of getting called on,
Right.
right? And it's random. I'm not picking on you. Your name just came out of the hat,
Right.
and it goes back in, so you could get called the next day as well. But so I asked the kids, should I continue with that, or should I increase the number of articles and let you use AI
Right. Mm.
to summarize the articles so you wouldn't actually be reading the articles? And the students' response was, um, it's important to learn to read. You
Right.
teach people to read in a way no one else does, or not a lot of people do, and that's really important. So we didn't make the change. But another thing we do in that class is we have a weekend conference where they present their research from the paper they're writing
Yeah.
before they write the paper. This forces the students to organize, and then they write a better paper. I'm thinking of encouraging them to use AI in that process as
Yes.
well. So I think you can't be afraid of things,
Right.
but there's still some things that never change.
Yes,
You've got to
sir.
be able to read and write. You've got to be able to communicate clearly, things like that. So I
Okay.
don't want to lose those things, but I don't want to ignore all the different things that are in the world
Yes,
today and
sir.
things that you need to know in the real world, right?
Yes, sir. Okay. Final question. What advice would you give students aspiring to make a mark in academia or other leadership roles?
It's hard for me to tell people you got to work hard and be disciplined
Mhm.
because I get to do what I love. And that it's one thing for me to do
Yes.
that. It's another thing if well, if I was a lawyer, I didn't want to be doing that stuff.
Mhm.
But I think, yeah, you got to work hard and you got to be disciplined. And I guess just in the world today, one thing that I've noticed that I think goes back to social media, there's a glaring lack of courtesy in the world
Right.
anymore. Things that I would never do, I would never say,
Mhm.
get thrown about all the time now. And so I think we can all work to be a little more courteous toward one another, and that carries over in the work environment. I
Right.
had a buddy of mine who was a millionaire in Los Angeles, and he made his fortune by selling fireplaces.
Okay.
Every condominium in Los Angeles has a little tiny electric fireplace in the corner, and he sold them all. He made a whole lot of money doing that. And he said to me one time, he said, Michael, if people like you at work, you'll never get fired.
Yeah.
It's not to
Yes.
say you're going to grow up to be president of the company, but if people like you, they'll never fire you.
Right.
And so I try to be courteous to people, and I try to remember that advice. And I think if young people are courteous to one another, you're never going to be worried about losing your job,
Yes, sir.
right?
Okay, I like that. So you mentioned something that I personally experienced and I actually like. It's when you're working in something you feel like you have skills at,
Hmm.
right? Versus something that you love, right?
Right.
Like I had skills in computer science, I had skills in athletic training and things like that. But when I switched my major to mass communication, this was natural. Like this was something
Yes.
that I can do all day, every day,
Yes.
not even in my curriculum. And I'm already catching up with things that I should be learning in a year or two and things like that. So do you feel like students should look to seek those things that you're gonna love this versus I'm just doing this for the check or the money or
Right.
the position.
So the easy answer and the sort of idealistic answer is you should find your passion,
Right.
right? Find your passion, you'll never work another day in your life.
Yes, sir.
But you got to know who you are to
Mhm.
make that choice. I went to law school with a lot of people who didn't necessarily love the law, but they wanted to take good care of their family.
Okay.
They wanted to be comfortable, and they've done that. And I respect that.
Mhm.
Like I said at the beginning, I'm a slacker, and
Yeah.
that's just not me. I gotta love what I'm doing, but not everybody's like me.
Right.
There are a lot of people that can get up and work 10 hours a day and go home and put it aside and do the other things that they love.
Yes,
So I think
sir.
you need to know who you are before you can answer that question.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Kasich, for sharing your wisdom and experience with us today. It has truly been inspiring to learn about your leadership and your vision of the School of Honors at SFA. Remember, listeners, success is a field beginning. Whoa. Success in any field begins with understanding and action. Subscribe to the cheat sheet and follow us on social media to stay connected. This is King Musa signing off. Stay encouraged as you stay inspired and keep learning.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.